Welcome to JA Career Success. My name is Risa, and on behalf of Junior Achievement of South Dakota, thank you for taking the time to teach JA Career Success this upcoming school year. What you're going to notice is that I have worked with the classroom teachers the past couple of years to adapt and condense this program to best fit into speech classes. So what you're going to notice is that there is a supplemental materials packet that's going to be provided with your curriculum kit. So look for this packet and make sure that you use this packet in tandem with the volunteer guide, and I'll explain that more as we go through these short videos. What you're going to notice is that I have each activity spelled out on here, and sometimes it will tell you to refer to the way it's in the guidebook with just a few tips and tricks. And other times we'll say, don't even use the guidebook, I've put everything in this packet. So this is going to be your starting point, and then you're going to use it in tandem with the guidebook. The other thing you're going to want to make sure to do is once you get your curriculum packet, you're going to want to organize all of your materials, and it works best to break them down into manila folders. And you're going to notice that there's a schedule of events here that's going to show you what materials are needed in which folder. We have taken what's in the curriculum as session 4 and moved that to the very end because that's on interviewing, and we feel like that is the best culminating activity. And we've also combined sessions 5 and 6 as it's written in the book. So this is going to help you to know which one you're going to want to teach when. All right. A few other things you're going to notice in your guidebook itself is that the opening pages are greetings from JA USA and some other tips and tricks on teaching in the classroom. On page 6, there's a master list of materials, and again, if you're ever confused as to what goes where, this might be able to help you identify what the materials are. One quick trick is that on the bottom of all of the materials, there's a small footer that's going to tell you what session that goes with. And again, you're going to want to make sure that you use our supplemental packet to make sure you're getting that in the correct visit. So let's jump in. On the very first day, we're going to be teaching the students about problem solving and kicking off the concept of soft skills. What you're going to notice is that we have a variety of different topics, and the first 3 sessions are really going to be focused on the soft skills. It's the skills that you need in order to keep a job. Communication, problem solving, conflict management, team collaboration. All of those things are necessary in order to keep and excel at a job. Then we're going to pivot a little bit and start talking to the students about what they're actually going to need in order to get a job. So the priorities, where to look for jobs, high growth jobs. Then the last 2 sessions, they're going to jump into the real world of resumes, cover letters, and their social media profiles, and then finaleing the entire program with interviewing. So hopefully you can see how it all builds together. The other thing we like to point out is that soft skills are so critical even for them today. So I always like to make sure that I'm emphasizing how can you grow in teamwork today? How can you grow in communication today? Because those are going to be skills that are transferable from where they are today in high school to their careers at some point in life. So we're going to kick off the program with problem solving. So for this first activity, you are going to need the table tents, which are just going to have the students write their first name on it so that they can be seen from in front of the room and you can start to get to know the students' names. I always feel that that helps with interaction. You're also going to notice that there are Career Success Toolbox kits. This is an envelope that the students are going to use to collect information throughout the program. During your review and summary sections, there's also going to be one short thing that they can do to help them remember the key point. What I like to do is have them collect all their materials in this packet, and I like to leave them in the back of the classroom with the teacher so that I don't have to move them back and forth every visit. Usually the teachers are great at keeping those on their back table. The other thing you're going to want to make sure that you do is hand those out at the beginning of each of your sessions so that the students can continue to grow it as you go throughout the program. For this activity, you're also going to have the problem-solving packets as well as the overload posters, which we'll talk about in just a minute. What you want to do when you get into the classroom is make sure that you introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about who you are and why you're teaching junior achievement. You sharing about your industry, about your career, about your education, attainment, and getting to where you are today, talking about some of the challenges you've had to overcome or things you wish you could do different. All of those real world experiences are what the students really get a lot out of junior achievement. The curriculum's wonderful, but it's you making it come alive and sharing your personal experiences that really takes it off the page. So once you get your materials, you're going to take a note, and that as you look at the supplemental packet, it says teach the activity as outlined in the guidebook, but here's a few thoughts to consider as you're doing it. So today's activity you're going to do basically out of the book. And what you're going to notice in here is that it's going to start out after you introduce yourself and a little bit about the program in general. You are going to jump right into a problem-solving activity. And you're going to notice that on these worksheets that the students will get, there are two different scenarios that you can read. I would encourage you to make this an interaction activity so that you don't hand these out right away, but instead you verbally read it and assign each corner of the room one of the answers. Then the students are all going to get up and they're going to move to the corner of the room in which they're going to do. Then they're going to have a friendly debate with one another regarding why they chose what to do and why. So as you'll notice, one of them is talking about a situation in which a customer has a special request at a fast food restaurant, but they're really, really busy. What would you do? Would you ignore the order? Would you do it wrong? Would you get help, etc.? And then they can have a friendly conversation regarding the pros and cons of it. And it really brings in an element of ethics, which we love to highlight here at Junior Achievement as well. So this is going to get it interactive right away, the students up and moving, and hopefully it will kick off the JA program in a fun and interactive way. Once you have a conversation, you can do both of those if you have time. Then you're going to have the students all go back to their seats, and you're going to hand these out. What you're going to then go into is the problem-solving process. So sometimes we have big things that we have to think about, and sometimes we have really quick decisions. We decided what to wear this morning. We decided what to eat for breakfast, things like that. We make decisions every day without really stopping to think about it, and other times decisions come our way in which we really need to think through what that answer might be. So you're going to use this guide as the opportunity to talk through the 3 steps. You can have a student read each one of them and talk briefly about it as you go. The teachers have asked me to ask you to add a 4th step, which is called reflect and evaluate. Because after we make a decision, it's always good to pause at the end to reflect on that and to say, if I was ever in this situation again, how would I do it differently? So have them write it in right here. We're going to be talking about reflecting and evaluating in session 3 as well. But for now, it's going to get them just to stop to think, like, at the end, you might decide you should have done it differently, and think about that so that when you're in that situation again, or if you ever have a friend or somebody that is in a similar situation, you can help provide some direction to them. What you're going to notice is if you have time, there is an opportunity for you to walk through a situation. It's a concession scene situation highlighted in the book that you can walk through with the whole class to kind of get them to think about how this would look in a real situation. Now, watch your time, because if your discussion in that first activity went a little long, you might need to cut that out, so just keep that in mind. But what you're going to do for the overall activity is the students are going to get into small groups, and each group is going to get one of these overload posters. And you are going to read the situation to the students, and then you're going to highlight and let them know that basically they are a new employer to this company, and it's the first day that they're alone on the job, and there is a problem with the inventory. And that's all you want to tell the students, really, other than some of the key points that are listed in the situation. The students are going to work together as a small group to identify the problem, and then they are going to identify 3 possible solutions and the pros and cons for each and what they ultimately would do. So again, all of these pieces are needed to solve the problem. So you've got the inventory list, you've got the purchase order, you've got the shelving diameter measurements, and then you've got the situation in general. What you don't want to tell the students, you hope that they derive it, what happened, big picture, is that they accidentally ordered 22 video games instead of just 2. So they've got 20 extra. And the biggest point of this whole thing is that they don't have room to store it, which seems a little bit far-fetched, and I understand that, but just tell them to go with it, and what would they do? And it's really interesting to hear some of their answers. So give them 5-7 minutes, depending on how much time you have and how quickly they're working through the process, to work in their small groups, and then make sure you reserve enough time for them to share with the whole group at the end. They all had the same scenario, but how are they going to answer it? I usually let each of the groups share. I sometimes write the options on the board, and then I talk about the pros and cons of each and really what do they think in the end is going to be the best solution. At the very end, you want to make sure that you take a few minutes just to pause and review what you've learned, talk about problem solving, share a personal story if you have one regarding an opportunity that you've had in your experience to work through that problem solving process, or if there was maybe a problem or a situation that you want to throw out to the students and say, hey, what would you do? How would you walk through this? Or what would you have done? Whenever you're sharing, just make sure that you keep what needs to be confidential in regard to names, etc. Make sure you keep that confidential if need be, but otherwise, again, have a lot of fun, enjoy your time in the classroom, and make sure that the students have the opportunity to put their name on their toolbox. They can fill out this very first portion of just these first 3 steps. They can add in that 4th one and collect those, and you'll be ready to go for day 2. Have fun in your session.